All right, hey, Professor Lanier. We're getting ready to start our interview process. I guess we'll start off introducing myself, or introducing each other, or let them introduce themselves.
My name's Dale Twist, Cody's father.
I'm Katie Love. I'm Cody's father's girlfriend.
Okay. What about, like, I guess you guys can say your discourse community that you're involved in right now, like where you stand as far as like in your discourse communities right now. We'll talk about how they have changed, or like what the ones in the past were. I guess we could start off by just saying what you do right now.
Well, currently I'm retired, so I that's another portion of the same career that I was in. My career in the community that I was the police work. So I was in police work for 24 years, and now I'm in retired. And so you sort of find yourself with a whole other group of guys that you're hanging out with and talking with and involved with day to day.
Okay.
And I am a registered dental hygienist. I've been practicing for 12 years and have worked in various settings. And through college was with one group of my college girls, and then from there on have been in different settings.
Okay, good. All right, so we're going to pull up our sheet for the interview now. I'll just kind of like go over this intro with y'all just because we have time to burn anyways. Workplace, it says, interview them regarding their experiences in and with this workplace discourse community that you guys both just said you were in now. Any additional discourse communities that you may belong to related to the role in the workplace. We're going to try to make this as a conversation, though. We're not really going to be just asking questions because, number one, we won't be able to finish it and get the time that we need, and number two, that's kind of boring. So I won't do that. I hope you guys don't mind that you can't see because I got to... Okay, so I guess we'll start off with you, Dad. We'll talk about number one. The question says, how long have they been a member of this particular workplace discourse community? Is this different than when their interest, experience, or training with this discourse community first begun? And if so, when did they start becoming enculturated to this discourse community? Okay, so basically what that question means is that how long have you, how, we could talk about not just the police force itself, but we could talk about things all the way down to beforehand, what made you choose the career, things that you did before you became a police officer. So you can kind of just give me your background.
In general, yeah. I mean, I graduated high school and went in the Marine Corps, and then spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. But I always had a desire when I was in high school and growing up, law enforcement. And back then it was, I always wanted to be a game warden because we were always out hunting and fishing with Grandpa. But,
yeah, of course.
So I always wanted to be a game warden. So when I was in the Marine Corps and getting ready to get out, I pursued law enforcement in general. So I was very lucky, and I got hired about 10 months after I got out of the Marine Corps. I got hired by City of Miami Beach, and immediately you become involved in what you're describing to me as a discourse community. I mean, you're in the academy, you're with the guys in the academy 10 hours a day, and then sometimes longer because you're studying with them. And you're learning all the aspects of police work. Mm-hmm. So you're already getting into the different codes and language, the police jargon. You find yourself talking, you're studying reports and learning how to write reports. And so you're getting indoctrinated right then and there into that community and how it all comes to pass.
So what do you think, if you could say when you actually feel like you started to become enculturated into this discourse community, maybe even before you were hired as a police officer, I don't know, what do you think when you actually considered yourself to be I guess like completely active, like you've gone everything, like you.
Well, definitely when you graduate from the academy and you get on the street, and every new officer starts in patrol, so you're doing day-to-day police work on the street in a police car, doing all the basic police work stuff, and you find yourself surrounded by a distinct group of guys. You're with the rookies and the younger guys.
Yeah, of course.
And you gravitate towards the guys you like and you have some kind of connection with, so you can go out and you really makes yourself more comfortable on the street.
Yeah, and you can almost count on them to help you out and things. Right. Those are the people that you first call on the radio whenever you have a problem.
Right. And then you start, and when you say that, it's so true, is you start learning people's voice on the radio.
Yeah.
And I may not even call you, but when you hear me on the radio, you know where I'm at, and so you sort of start moving towards me, and vice versa. So everybody starts working together that way.
Yeah. Okay. Katie, do you have a similar recollection of experience? Do you think you have something maybe a little bit different as to how you became enculturated into your current Discourse community?
But mine started earlier because I literally started work. My first job was in a dental office when I was 16, and I was just doing like filing stuff.
Yeah.
But I became immediately incorporated in the dental world, so immediately learned the language of dentistry, which is
it's almost like
a different language.
I mean, it's not like completely opposite, but it's different than your experience, because she has been, she's been in that dental office since ever. So, it's kind of like almost like, I don't know, it's like
like 20 years.
You're enculturated. Yeah. Absolutely enculturated for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about common goals? I talked to you earlier, the Discourse community. The first thing that a Discourse community has to do to actually be a Discourse community is it has to have a common set of agreed goals by obviously every member or person that's in the Discourse community. So it says, what are the common goals of this workplace community? Who are the members in the community, both specific and on a larger scale? And common goals, which members share values. So what we're looking for, kind of like basically like what you were doing and how the people that you were in the Discourse community with interacted to get the job done. That's why you have goals.
Right.
We'll start with you. Or either one. Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I think the goal number one is to earn a living. That's kind of the goal for everybody.
But more specific.
What we chose to do,
mm-hmm.
your ultimate goal is that you want people to have excellent oral health.
Okay.
And so you're there to educate primarily, and then treat any disease that you have and prevent future disease.
Okay.
So that's the main goal, and it's shared by all of the clinicians, as the dental hygienists, the dentists, the dental assistants, as well as your front office staff, and so that the whole group.
Okay, so could you kind of explain to me the process? Let's say Cody Twist goes and is getting, I'm getting an examination, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be looking at my teeth. I'm also going to be getting a cleaning that day. And I'm, obviously I'd see the doctor. What is the process for me when I leave the waiting room, and what members are going to be interacting with each other for me
before you even come through the door to make your appointment.
Okay.
The front office should determine how long has it been since you've been treated. Are you coming to us with a mess, or are you coming to us, hey, I just moved here, but I've been going regularly. So all those things make a difference in how you're appointed, or who maybe you're appointed with. And then your first time you see me, I'll do the typical screening, which involves x-rays, exam, checking out your gums, seeing what your current state is. Okay. If you have decay or anything like that, the dentist would then see you to treat that.
Okay. So you're the one that scrapes at my teeth before
right. So we are the ones
starts.
who take a look at everything and determine what all you need and what order. That's probably the most important thing is, we treat what's the worst first.
Exactly.
And then from there, once you're at a healthy state, it's our job to keep you there by coming every 6 months, every 4 months, whatever is necessary, and educating you on how to keep yourself in that current state.
Okay, awesome. That's exactly what we're looking for as far as goals go for your I think that's good information. What about you? What do you think as far as go over the question one more time just so you know what we're talking about here. Who are the members? What is the goals? Even on a small scale or a large scale, the people. How do you share values with those people in the workplace?
Okay, so for us in police work, I was with a large department. It was almost 400-man department, sworn members. But then you have civilian staff that also work in there, so it makes it a really large organization. Mm-hmm. But it's broken down into different, because it's shift work. It's broken down into smaller groups, and then within each shift, it even gets broken down even further. So our first goal is obviously law enforcement and keeping people safe and enforcing laws. So it's public safety and enforcing the laws of the state and the city. So the group that I was in was, in my instance, it was a particular shift, and in the very beginning it was the midnight patrol shift. So we work nights, and you find that every shift was really unique in the members, and the members are different, but personalities are different because of the police work is actually different on each shift.
Okay.
So, as an example, when I say that, in general, the midnight shift was a much younger shift. We worked a lot harder in the beginning. In the beginning of my career, it was in the early '80s, so we had the crack epidemic, and we were chasing bad guys literally all night long because it was just running rampant in the city, and there was always something going on. But our shift was a lot different from every other shift. Day shift, it was a lot quieter. It was a more day.
Yeah, you don't have the cocaine cowboys.
Right, and it was more business. Businessmen, stores are open. There's a lot of activity, just normal activity on the streets. So, in my experience, that shift was completely different. It was a lot of really go-getters, younger people. You really found yourself doing some progressive police work, going out and hiding in bushes and trying to sneak up on these guys that are selling crack on the streets and stuff to make a difference. But day shift, you're not hiding in the bushes. It's not.
Yeah, of course.
It's a completely different thing.
Do you think that members, like you say, you're saying like as far as like the shifts go, do you think that those members, let's say that were on the day shift versus the night shift, would have different values? Because that's kind of like I don't know, like maybe a different way of approaching their work or whatever. Because I feel like that would really be, I don't know, I feel like that would make a difference.
I don't know if it's values, but it's because.
But your goals were different.
The goals were much.
Day to night.
Right. The goals were much different.
I feel like you even go about it differently.
Yeah, but the day shift guys weren't tasked with the same things. Like they weren't challenged with the same things so much. Yeah. So you do find yourself, and when I later in my career I was on day shift, you found yourself but you found yourself doing different police work. Yeah. You were much, and it sounds bad, but you were like friendlier and you were you handled instances differently, but it was because of the whole surrounding. Yeah, you're dealing with completely different people. You don't know who the good guys and bad guys are in the daytime. At night, pretty much at 3 a.m. on Miami Beach back then, if they're out in the street, they're not a good guy.
Yeah,
they're up to something. So that was, I don't know if it's morally different, but it was. There was a difference in policing.
Yeah, of course. I think I know I would. If I was walking around at 3 o'clock in the morning versus walking around at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I would even carry myself differently.
And you have to, because it's of course your safety is paramount, and you're always thinking of it.
Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of gone over like who you, what you've done, the goals that you do or that you did in your workplace, like how you and the other members go about it. Me and you talked about how essentially it's in a dental, it's like a routine. Everybody does the same thing. So that's actually a huge part of your discourse community. It says, in being a member of this workplace discourse community, are there also members of additional discourse communities? For example, an engineer may work for a certain company, but may also be a member of the Association of Engineers. So, what do you have any clubs, groups, maybe even starting all the way back from when you were in college? Anything?
Oh, yeah.
Just
in college they pushed you to join the Association of Dental Hygienists. And so we were all part of that. And I would say in college you were all like real tight with each other and you did everything together. The whole class, because we were together as a class for 2 years, 8 to 5 every day, every work day. And then after that, I was still a member of it for a long time. But then you sort of, once you get out in private practice and you get with your own little office group, you're not so, some people still do, but I'm not into that whole meeting with the other hygienist every month or whatever
stupid,
for dinner, which is what they do. But yeah, I mean, there's groups like that, but when you're in private practice, you sort of tend to stick with your own little group.
Essentially, because you work in a private practice, do you think that association made you function better in your workplace? Do you think it kind of was negative towards your workplace?
I think it gives you
good
perspectives of what else is out there and how other offices are doing things besides your own, because it's very easy to get tunnel vision and only think the way your office does things, and that's not the way it's done everywhere. But I think for my job, it's really, unless you're wanting to branch out into specialties, like go work for a periodontal office or go work for an orthodontist or whatever.
Yeah, it's not necessarily.
The general dentistry is not, as a hygienist, what you're doing is not going to change much.
Just
as long as you're
in
keeping up with your continuing ed every year, you're not really going to fall behind, so to speak, on what's going on out there. So,
let's see here. I was thinking about something while you were talking that I should ask you, but I forgot. So maybe we'll think about it whenever I'm talking to you. What do you think? Do you have any other discourse communities maybe helped you, hurt you, didn't do anything?
I definitely had two distinct groups that I, in the beginning of my career, throughout my career that I was very involved with. One was SWAT. So for the first 13 years of my career, I was involved with SWAT, and that was a very tight-knit group of guys. It was, and it's meant to be that way. I mean, we trained together differently. We had different physical fitness requirements. We I think we thought differently, but you had to think through things differently. So as a team and in training, you'd always be running through scenarios and working through training together. So you became really, really tight with those guys. You would socialize. I socialized more with those guys than I did other guys in the department. I trained with them. I worked with them. And you really get to the point where when the team is really clicking and when you feel really comfortable on a team, it's because your training is top notch, and you know the guy next to you's training is just as tight, and he knows what you're thinking, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. You can almost read just body language on your team members, your teammates. Their body language, you can tell what they're going to do, and hopefully they're reading the same thing off of you. So I was very involved with SWAT, which was a very tight-knit side group, and then I later became involved with the union more, and I was a board member for years, and that's a different. That was more the business side of police work. Mm-hmm. That
Could you elaborate? I don't know what that means. Like, what is business? Like, what would you do?
Well, the union was responsible for keeping up with our contract between the members and the city, and then helping to enforce and make sure that people are being treated fairly within our contract. So your contract it's a business contract between every employee of the police department and the city, and the union was responsible for getting members to comply, as well as be involved if there was discipline if you were not complying. So I was involved with the union for a long time, and I got to learn that side of police. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Sort of a different side of police work.
Yeah. Do you think that made you like look at your job differently?
Definitely, because when you know the contract, and you I believe every job that I've ever had, there's people that are always complaining, wishing things were different, wishing things were better, whatnot. When you know the business side of a contract, and
touchdown.
Yeah. When you know the business side of the contract, you can help a member. When a member starts to maybe spout off about something, and you go, wait a minute, it's right here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is it. This is the rules.
Yeah.
And this is how we have to do it. And the contract was built for a reason. It's for our protection and the city's protection. So it was good to know it. I thought it was very helpful.
Yeah, that actually I think is a mechanism of intercommunication. Basically, like as well as things to provide feedback and information, because that's like the underground. That's like all the human relation. Like it's like I don't know. That's just something good to point out, because that's kind of like what this is all about. Okay, we're gonna go to the last question. We have roughly 15 minutes left. Probably won't be spot on, but it's funny. I was actually just talking about mechanisms of intercommunication. When we say like mechanism of intercommunication, it could be like for you, like radios and beepers, charts,
right.
All their information, like history and stuff. So we're going to talk about that. It says, what types of information or feedback does each mechanism provide, and how do you use each of the mechanisms, and when did you learn to use them?
Oh, but charts, you hit it. It's probably the biggest one.
Okay.
For
and
us,
you said that you were even before you were a dental hygienist,
right.
You were dealing with the mechanism of intercommunication.
Right. And you also have your communication from your front desk person to the clinician. Like, what are you dealing with? And that has to be accurate. So, you need everybody in the team to be on their game and paying attention and knowing what's what. And I don't even know if you knew this, but I just got moved to the front full time.
Okay.
Like I was already kind of our office manager, but one of our receptionists left, and so my boss said, I want you up front, like all the time while you're running the whole thing from there.
That's awesome.
The difference is up there, right? The difference up there is you have to communicate with every person in the back effectively.
So this is exactly
or
what
you're
we're
not
about.
going to get, if that patient calls you on the phone and says, I'm having a problem with such and such, you have to initially schedule that person for the appropriate amount of time. Do they have enough time in the back to fix the problem? If I'm putting somebody in there for 15 minutes, it really does them no good. They have to come back. So you have to listen to the patient and be able to figure out what do they need. You won't know for sure, but guess based on what information they're giving you. Make an educated guess. And then communicate to the staff through the computer when you're entering their appointment.
Okay,
why did this person call? What's going on? And then that person in the back, before that patient even gets there, already knows what they're looking at.
Okay, so you're saying the computer is a good mechanism.
Computers.
So you say that person in the back, the one that's getting the information that you say, like, okay, whatever, your guess of what they need to do or how, whatever. So there is, is there a numerous amount of computers? Do they have them in every room, or is it more like their offices? When does the doctor have time to even look at that if they have appointments all day long?
Patients all day long. Well, now in the modern dentistry world, pretty much every room has a computer. Every clinician has a computer, and that's their go-to. Yeah. They're looking at that straight away, and the first thing in the morning, they're looking through their whole schedule. And in each appointment is listed why that patient's coming in, what they need, if it's an emergency, what their complaint is. You try to get as much information as you can as to what tooth it is, so then you can look back in their history and say, oh yeah, 2 years ago they came in and we told them they had a cavity and a back tooth, so we're probably looking at that tooth as the problem. I mean, you can sort of set yourself to know what you're going to be doing. But it's through computers.
All based off of a computer. Right. That's awesome.
Which is where the charts are now. There's no more written charts. Everything's
okay. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I know that, like, in the the real doctor's office in Wakulla, they have computer. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So what about you? This is getting kind of old.
Well,
Professor Lanier, thank you.
For us, it's communications. Part of the job starts in the academy, and almost immediately you get one of the things they get you in the academy with is the codes, and codes are all for your radio talk. So everything that you do, pretty much, is by code and on the radio.
Okay, can you give me like an example? Like, what is the code? I don't get it.
For us in Dade County, we use what they call the Q codes. So there were four or five, and to make it to where other people understand, like when you hear police say 10-4 and 10-20 and 10-18, we didn't use the 10 codes. We used Q codes. It was more simplified. But we had some Q codes. So QSL means yes, okay. QSM means repeat. So there was different codes that we had to learn, and then the number codes were 26 is a burglary, 34 is a disturbance, 43 is a crazy person, 31 is a homicide. So you go through, we had about 67 codes, I think.
And you were like tested on these from day one whenever you wanted to be.
So the main communication in police work is the police radio, paperwork. You have police reports that you're and after almost every incident, you're writing a police report, and then you have the internal communications, which is a lot of police jargon and some guys, and I never really got it, but some guys get hung up in police codes, and they'd be talking to you normally and throw codes into their conversation. That's how routine it became for them.
Yeah, of course.
I thought that was stupid, but you really find where everything's code. you get the radio becomes second nature, and it has to be because when something goes bad, it's quicker. It shortens time on the radio, and when something goes bad, the air time is critical. Yeah. If the guy in trouble can't get on the radio because
somebody's
you're rambling along trying to describe something, it hurts. It hurts everybody because they can't get to him. They don't know what's going on with him and whatnot.
Awesome.
So in the police world, it's radios, paperwork, and reports, and then that intercommunications, a lot of police jargon and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'd just like to point out the fact that you still, to this day, you write in capital letters because you had to do that,
right? And that was in the academy from the get go. It's block letters.
Yeah, it's,
everybody uses
communication.
Capital block letters, so it's so you can read it.
Of course.
So I mean, nowadays that's probably a lost form now because computers.
Internet. Yeah.
Everybody's doing their paperwork on computers. Every police car has a computer in it. But back when I came on and through the time when I left, we were still doing handwritten reports. And at the end of the day, you had to get to the sergeant and show him your report. If he couldn't read it, I had sergeants that rip it in half and throw it back at you and say, redo it.
Yeah.
And you'd sit for another 20 minutes and redo a report that was done 4 or 5 hours ago from your shift. So it kept reports cleaner, more uniform. And then the other thing that was big was in the early 80s when I came out of the academy, they were trying to get over to speaking in first person. So the report may start off with, I, Officer Twist, responded, blah, 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 and saw the victim, Miss Cody.
Yeah.
Well, and then you would continue on through the report. You just then if you just say, Katie said, or Cody said, or this person said,
makes it easy.
First person. Well, the old timers all used to do, I responded, and the victim, and they would never bring in the victim's name, and it was always like in third person.
Yeah.
It was a very
like they were telling a story.
Yeah, it was a hard way to read reports, and it wasn't a very natural way.
Okay.
So that I get to, when I first came on the street, we'd be writing the way they taught us in the academy, and then the old timer sergeant would go, "What the heck is this, kid?
Hurry up, get it done already.
This doesn't make any sense."
Yeah.
So, but that was a transition thing.
Yeah. So that's good. That's why I just brought that up because I knew it would have correlation. I knew it would be. So you still use the writing as an example.
I still write the same way.
Yes, of course. Even when your discourse communities have changed, that discourse community has affected you so much so that you still practice those same things. I mean, you don't talk in code, but it's still like affecting your life today. I think that's pretty cool. It says, what genres are used within both the broader and more specific discourse communities? When and how did the interviewee learn to read, write, or communicate in each genre? We kind of went over those. We didn't really identify them as genres. A genre could be the files themselves, the history themselves, or the appointment times.
Right.
The file that you have for I don't even know, like the drug reps that are going to come in and try to sell you, stuff like that. Those are genres. And then for you, it'd be like a ticket book.
Right.
Or the report things. Yeah, that's a genre as well. So we already hit that. So we'll kind of go to the next one. What are several examples of the Lexis this community utilizes in order to function? Lexis is just a fancy term for slang, stuff like that. You can just give me a few Lexis. I mean, we've kind of, at this point now, we've kind of hit almost everything.
I mean,
so
there's slang that you wouldn't really put, in your chart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, you'd say it, but everybody would know what you meant.
Yeah, what? Give me an example. Give me one example. Doesn't
Like
matter.
you'd
We're
say,
just
if
for the
you
sake
had
of-
a hard patient, you'd come out and be like, that person bled like a stuck pig. Like that's obviously not something you would put in your chart
Of
or
course.
Whatever.
Of course, or like a biscuit.
Yeah.
She likes to call like whenever you have something stuck in it, she's a biscuit.
You come out and be like, I just pulled like a whole chicken out of that person's mouth.
Like you haven't brushed your teeth in like 2 days.
And you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't put that in the chart, but it's slang that like your other hygienist would be like, oh yeah, you know.
Okay. So what about you? Give me an example. Give me like, besides like code, like you just gave me some examples like PSM or PS or whatever you said. But yeah, so like what about?
You probably don't want to know.
Lexus?
Yeah.
Like for like a junkie or like for somebody that's like always getting in trouble or like a homeless guy you always see, like stuff like that. Like what's like an example?
Well, you find yourself, it'd be more like there was a couple that are more common, like 43 is for a Baker Act. That's the actual meaning of the code. Baker Act being the Florida statute that you would commit somebody.
Yeah.
So when you saw one of your regular nutties around the street, it'd be like, yeah, there's that 43.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It's stuff like that.
Mm. So both of y'all's discourse communities, it's like, but it's member to member. The slang doesn't because it's a professional environment. You don't use the Lexus as much, like with the people you're interacting with, but more the other members of the discourse community that you're interacting with. Okay, good. Is there any like professional Lexus, like maybe like?
Well, in police work,
like,
our Lexus
would
be different agencies when I was in investigations. Was that what you're talking about? Like we would work a lot with other agencies.
Okay, yeah.
So, when I got into investigations, then you really found yourself more involved with other agencies. The state attorney's office, you'd be directly involved with them. Yeah. You'd be directly involved with the coroner's office, different agencies, different police agencies and whatnot. So, I don't know if that fits what you're asking.
Okay, we'll go. Who are currently the novices, experts? How have they changed? Maybe like.
Oh, I can give you one.
Okay, so you said that now you actually don't even do the actual hygienist stuff. So you have progressed obviously from 16 years old doing charts, a novice, to at this point being an expert. So what like. I guess, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess we can talk about, like, maybe,
Yeah, I mean, in my office, I would be considered the one who's done every job except that of the dentist.
Okay,
like,
exactly.
You could ask me anything, I'm going to know, and the problem with a lot of hygienists is they come out of school only knowing hygiene.
As a novice.
They don't want to learn anything else in the office, and they get a bad reputation. If you went to any dental office in the country and you asked them who their princesses are in the office, they're going to tell you it's their hygienist. Because they're very spoiled. They come out of school, they don't want to know. They're too good to go file charts. They're too good to answer the phone as a whole.
I believe it.
So, they don't want to. They don't want to do any of that.
Good.
So you have people who have worked their way up or done every job that there was to do, and the dentist appreciates those people because he knows he can go to them for anything, and it's not going to be a problem.
Exactly.
But we have like a professional, a lady. That question reminded me. There's this lady who like founded dental hygiene. Her name's Esther Wilkins. Mm-hmm. She's like. She may not even be alive anymore. She's like 90 if she's alive. But she wrote the book for dental hygiene. It's like this thick. And it's the one that you have to get in school. And they revise it every year. And it's so ridiculous. Like the things that she thinks you should do. If you had 4 hours, you could do it. But she's considered the queen.
She's the godmother.
She's the one that,
Good. Good. Okay. So what about you?
So for us, when you come in out of the academy, you're the rookie.
Of course.
And usually you come out with a group of people, and you sort of hang together, so you make it through those first couple of that first year.
Exactly. So like, what's like the rank or like the name? I know that police officers like.
So police officer for us, police officer was the basic rank.
Okay.
And that you would be a police officer, you'd be in uniform. There are police officers that are detectives.
Okay.
Some cities do it differently. Like the big cities in New York, detective is a promotion. But for us, you could actually go to the detective bureau or investigations as a police officer, and now you're just a detective. Yeah. But you do see a difference in experience. To get to the detective bureau, you have to show a certain amount of experience and drive as an officer to get to that position, because it's a competitive position.
Okay.
So then you make yourself, and then you go up and through sergeant, lieutenant, and whatnot. And there's sergeants in patrol, and there's sergeants in investigations.
Okay. So in the police force, it's more of a refined system of moving up, as opposed to your discourse community, where, like you said, a doctor, just from how you work in the office, a doctor could possibly you could like be rewarded and or like get on the good side of the the big shot. So that's kind of different. That's
right.
It's kind of cool how those discourse communities
defined.
are absolute.
You had to have a certain skill set.
Polar opposites. That's
right.
Just a good connection to make. Let's see here. So, I am getting close to the end here. We can talk about, is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? Maybe something that you feel that you thought about from one of the questions, maybe thought like spurred something, but I like kind of responded too fast, and maybe something like, I don't know, just something off the wall.
The only thing that I have is like from being in police work for so long, and you're in that tight group of people, although there's different little niches within there, within that community. When you retire, you find yourself on the outside, and it's really different. Although there's
as you leave that discourse community,
right?
I'm just trying to make like get the actual lingo, like
right. So you leave that community,
yeah,
and there's a thing it's a loss. I mean, you feel it because
it makes sense.
You miss the camaraderie and the working.
Especially like you have all these things that are like almost like a team. Kind of like. So.
And even though, and there's a lot of guys that stick together and come together in the retirees.
Yeah.
It's a lot less. So you do miss. That's one thing I miss about being in that organization.
Yeah, and it's a long time. So.
With a lot of different people, it's the difference between yours and mine.
Yeah.
There's not that many.
Okay. Well, good. So we've wrapped up discourse communities. I don't know. I'd like to see where this goes. Thanks, Professor.
Thank you.